Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, no matter which time zone you are in. Welcome back to Sip&Talk.
Welcome.
Hey, I have to tell you something terrifying. I was just sitting here, and I started thinking, what if this cup of coffee I'm holding isn't, actually real?
Oh, here we go.
No, seriously. I mean, it might just be a quantum superposition. Before I take that first sip, it's, simultaneously hot and cold and amazing and just awful. Then I look at it snap, and one universe is chosen. That's my coffee.
So Schrodinger's coffee, is that what we're calling this?
Yeah.
Look, if your coffee genuinely exists in that many states at once, I'm less worried about the cosmos and more worried about its expiration date.
That's not the point. I am being serious.
Yeah.
Lately, I keep running into all this stuff.
Yeah.
The double slit experiment, quantum entanglement, this idea that the world changes when you observe it.
Right.
And then, on top of all that, you have guys like Elon Musk saying, we're probably living in a simulation. I wake up every morning and I wonder, am I actually waking up, or is some programmer just reloading my daily subroutine?
Well, the good news is your talent for finding existential dread in everyday objects seems to be a constant in any universe. The bad news, though, is that you're right. The weird stuff you just mentioned, it's not science fiction.
Right. And that is the part that's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
It used to be that physics was about certainty. A table is a table, light is light. Now, physics itself is telling us, no, actually, light is a particle. But sometimes it's a wave, and particles can be connected across galaxies. And, oh, by the way, reality might not exist until you describe it. I mean, doesn't that just sound like someone who's had way too much to drink?
It sounds that way because our brains, our intuition, were not built to understand the quantum world. But our goal today isn't to turn physics into, mysticism. It's the opposite.
Okay.
We're going to take these crazy-sounding theories one by one and really unpack them, see what they do say, and just as importantly, what they don't say. We're going to have a really comprehensive exploration.
Wow. So we're not just talking about physics. We're going all the way to, does life have any meaning? If I'm just one cosmic slice in a multiverse,
Yeah.
Why bother?
That's exactly where we're headed. We'll start with the double slit experiment, then move to quantum mechanics and free will, and then we'll tackle the multiverse. Is it real physics or just a mathematical escape door?
Okay.
And that will lead us right to the question everyone wants to avoid. If the universe didn't write an answer for us, where does meaning come from?
All right, that sets the stage for all you Sip&Talkers listening. The core question for today is, if the world isn't what we thought it was, can we still decide how to live?
Let's find out.
Welcome to today's core discussion. Do we really choose? Quantum, freedom, and many worlds.
So let's start there with that panic you mentioned.
Yeah, the existential panic.
Because you're right, it isn't based on some vague philosophy. It's rooted in cold, hard, repeatable scientific facts. And the first fact we have to face is the big one. The double slit experiment.
The one that started it all.
Absolutely. It's ultimate proof that the world on a tiny scale just doesn't follow the rules we're used to. It's really the cornerstone of all of this. It tells us reality is, at its heart, probabilistic.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap it for everyone. You take a barrier, you cut two tiny slits in it, and you fire things at it, like electrons or photons of light.
Right. And if you were shooting, say, tiny paint pellets, you'd expect to see two simple stripes on the screen behind the barrier, one for each slit.
Makes sense. Particles go through holes, they make a pattern of the holes.
But that's not what happens. If you don't watch them, if you just let the electrons fly and check the screen later, what you see is completely bizarre.
It's that interference pattern.
It's an interference pattern. You get a whole series of stripes, light, and dark bands. And that pattern is something only waves do. It's what happens when water ripples go through two openings and interfere with each other.
Which means each single electron somehow went through both slits at the same time, like a wave.
And interfered with itself. That's wave-particle duality. The same thing is somehow both a localized particle and a spread-out wave.
And here's the part that really messes with your head. Because the moment you put a detector at the slits to see which one the electron goes through,
the whole game changes instantly.
The interference pattern just disappears.
It vanishes, and you're left with just two simple stripes, exactly like the paint pellets we expected in the first place. The very act of measuring which path it took forces it to behave like a particle. It collapses the wave function.
This is where the alarm bells go off for me. It feels like reality is waiting for us to look before it makes up its mind. It challenges this whole idea of an objective world that's just out there doing its thing, whether we're here or not.
And that is the single biggest misconception we have to clear up right now. Because when people hear observation collapses the wave function, they jump to this idea that it takes, like, human consciousness, a thinking mind influencing the universe.
Well, yeah. The language makes it sound like that. So what is it if it's not my brain waves telling the electron what to do?
It's about irreversible information exchange. The technical term is decoherence. A quantum state is incredibly delicate. The moment it interacts with anything in the environment, a detector, a photon, even an air molecule that's big enough to record which path it took, that information leaks out.
Ah, so it's not about a person thinking. It's about a physical record being made.
Exactly. The system can't stay in that weird both state once its state is, registered in the wider world. The information exchange forces it to commit.
Okay, let's try that office analogy we talked about. I think that makes it clearer.
The boss behind you idea. Yeah, let's do it.
So imagine you're working from home. No one's watching. You exist in a superposition of, like, super productive genius employee and total slacker watching cat videos.
You are both simultaneously. Both possibilities are real.
But the moment your boss pings you on Slack, or the monitoring software logs your activity, your wave function collapses. Instantly, you snap into model employee mode. All evidence of the slacker vanishes.
And the key is, the collapse didn't require the boss's consciousness to will you into working. It just required the fact that information about your state was recorded somewhere. In the company's server logs, for example, that decoherence, that information leak, is what forces you to commit to one measurable reality.
Okay, that helps. It's not magic, it's information. But that leads to the next level of weirdness.
Entanglement.
If the double slit shows us reality is uncertain, entanglement proves that this uncertain reality is deeply connected. This is Einstein's spooky action at a distance.
And he hated it, but it's been proven real over and over again. So what it is, you take two particles, you let them interact in a special way, and their quantum states get linked. They become correlated.
And they stay linked no matter how far apart they get. You could have one here on Earth and the other on Mars.
Or in another galaxy. The distance doesn't matter. If you measure a property of one particle, like its spin, you instantly know the spin of the other one. If you measure yours as spin up, in that exact same moment, its partner is spin down.
That instantaneous link. That's what we call non-locality.
Right. It challenges our whole intuition that things are only affected by their immediate surroundings. It suggests the universe isn't just a collection of separate things, but maybe a single interconnected network. The whole system is a single entity before you describe the parts.
Okay, here's the question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. If the information gets from one particle to the other instantly, doesn't that break the biggest rule in physics? The speed of light.
That is the most important clarification, and the answer is a firm no. You cannot use this to send information faster than light.
Wait, okay, break that down for me. Why not? Why can't I use it as like a super fast telegraph to Mars?
Because of the randomness. When you measure that first particle, the outcome you get, spin up or spin down, is completely random. You have absolutely no control over it. So you know that whatever random result you get, your friend on Mars will get the opposite. But you can't force your particle to be spin up to send a 1 in binary code. Since you can't control the signal, you can't encode a message.
I can't say, okay, on the count of 3, I'm going to make my particle spin up, and that means we should attack at dawn.
Exactly. You get a random bit of information, and your friend gets the opposite random bit. It's a correlation, not communication. It's a state correlation, a pre-existing relationship, not a signal transfer. The speed of light limit protects causality, cause and effect, and entanglement doesn't violate it.
That is such a key distinction. Okay, so this spooky connection is real. It's foundational for things like quantum computing.
And quantum cryptography, yep.
But it's not a magic telephone. Let's try the couple's sixth sense analogy.
I think that works well to get the idea across.
Okay, so you're on a business trip, miles away from your partner, and suddenly you get a text from them asking the exact thing you were just agonizing about. Are you stressing about the presentation tomorrow?
It feels like telepathy, faster than light communication.
Right. You measured your own state anxiety, and their state seemed to instantly correlate. But it's not magic. It's based on years of shared history, of knowing each other. It's a high-accuracy prediction model. The system of the couple is understood as a whole even when the parts are separate. But no new information was actually zapped across the country in that instant. The correlation was already baked in.
Perfectly put. Now, let's shift gears. We've seen how weird the micro world is, but we also have to look at the macro world, the world of big things, which is governed by a completely different set of rules, Einstein's theories of relativity.
And this is where things get really complicated, right? Because these two pillars of modern physics, quantum mechanics and relativity, they both work perfectly in their own domains, but they don't really talk to each other very well.
They conflict, especially when you try to describe extreme things like black holes or the very beginning of the universe. So to understand the full picture, we have to understand the cosmic rule set of the large-scale universe.
Okay, so let's start with the first pillar, special relativity from 1905. This is the one that deals with speed, but not gravity.
Right. And it's built on two incredibly powerful ideas. First, the laws of physics are the same for everyone moving at a constant speed. Second, and this is the one that changed everything, the speed of light in a vacuum, which we call souk, is the same for everybody, no matter how fast you're moving.
And that second point has some really wild consequences.
Yeah.
Because if the speed of light is always the same, then something else has to be flexible. And that something is space and time.
Exactly. It leads to time dilation. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time relative to someone who's stationary.
A classic twin paradox. One twin flies off in a spaceship near the speed of light. When she comes back, she's younger than the twin who stayed on Earth.
Yes, and also length contraction, where objects actually get shorter in the direction they're moving. And, of course, the most famous equation in history, AMC200.
Mass and energy are two sides of the same coin.
And it also explains why you can't reach the speed of light. As you get closer to C, your mass increases, and it would take an infinite amount of energy to push you over that final little bit. The speed limit is absolute for anything with mass.
Okay, so that's special relativity. Then, 10 years later, Einstein brings gravity into the picture.
With general relativity. And he does it by completely redefining what gravity is. He starts with the equivalence principle,
Which says you can't tell the difference between being in a gravitational field and being in an accelerating rocket ship.
Locally, they're indistinguishable. And this insight led him to realize that gravity isn't a force pulling things through space. Gravity is the shape of space-time itself.
It's the curvature.
It's the curvature of a four-dimensional fabric, space-time, caused by the presence of mass and energy. Think of it like a bowling ball on a trampoline. It creates a big dip. A marble rolling nearby isn't being pulled by the bowling ball.
It's just following the curve in the fabric.
It's following the straightest possible path, a geodesic through a curved space. That's what an orbit is.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. We use it every single day.
We do. Your GPS wouldn't work without it. The satellites orbiting Earth are in a different frame of reference than we are down here.
So how do the corrections work? What's going on with their clocks?
There are two effects. Because of special relativity, the satellites are moving very fast, so their clocks tick slightly slower than ours. But because of general relativity, they're in a weaker gravitational field, so their clocks tick slightly faster.
You have to account for both.
You have to account for both every single day. If you didn't, the accumulated error would be about 10 kilometers or 7 miles per day. Your map app would be completely useless. The fact that it works is daily proof that time is relative and gravity bends space-time.
So that brings us back to EA, the speed of light. It's not just how fast light travels. It's way more fundamental than that.
It's the ultimate cosmic speed valve. It is the structure constant of space-time. It's the maximum speed at which causality at which information can travel.
You called it the exchange rate between space and time. I like that. What does that mean?
Think of it this way. Everything is always moving through space-time at one speed and one speed only, the speed of light.
Wait, everything? Even me, sitting here?
Yes. Right now, sitting still, all of your motion is through the time dimension. You're moving into the future at the maximum possible rate. The moment you start moving through space, say by getting in a car, you have to borrow some of that speed from your time dimension.
So you travel a little bit slower through time to pay for your travel through space.
That's time dilation. And if you could, theoretically, travel at the speed of light through space, all of your motion would be in space and none of it would be in time. Time would stop for you.
And the reason for this hard limit is to protect causality.
It's to protect the sequence of cause and effect. If you could go faster than light, you could, in some reference frames, arrive before you left. You could receive a message before it was sent. The universe has this rule to prevent paradoxes, to keep time's arrow pointing forward.
Well, it was a huge argument against that old idea of classical determinism, isn't it?
A massive one. The old clockwork universe of Laplace required everything to be instantly connected and synchronized. Relativity says that's impossible. Information has a speed limit. The universe is locally causal, but it's not globally synchronized.
It's like my coffee order analogy. You can't drink the coffee before you order it. C is the rule that ensures the barista gets the order before you get the coffee. Cause has to come before effect.
And all of this, the weirdness of quantum, the hard limits relativity, feeds directly into the next big idea, the simulation hypothesis.
Right. Musk, Bostrom. The idea that this is all just a very advanced computer program. Let's start with the logic of it, because it's not really a physics theory, is it?
Not at all. It's a philosophical probability argument. And it goes like this. Assume that any civilization that survives long enough will eventually develop incredible computing power.
Okay, makes sense.
And with that power, they'll inevitably run ancestor simulations. You know, for research, for entertainment, who knows? They would run millions, maybe billions of them.
So if there are billions of simulated universes and only one base reality,
the statistical odds are overwhelmingly in favor of us being in one of the simulations. Musk says it's like 1 billion to 1.
And what gives this argument its scientific-sounding edge is that, as we've been saying, quantum mechanics looks a lot like a computer program trying to be efficient.
There are at least 3 big features. First, discreteness. At the tiniest level, the Planck scale, space, and energy aren't smooth. They come in little packets, or quanta.
Like pixels on a screen?
Exactly like pixels. A continuous universe would require infinite information, infinite computing power. A quantized, pixelated one is manageable.
Second, the observer effect.
We just talked about it. The universe only seems to render the details when an observer is looking. Why waste processing power calculating the state of an electron on Pluto if no one's measuring it? It's a classic video game optimization trick.
And third, the speed limit.
That could just be the ultimate processing speed of the cosmic computer, the clock speed of the universe's CPU. Nothing can happen faster than the processor can handle it.
And then there's an even weirder idea from actual physics that kind of supports this, the holographic principle.
Right, and this comes out of serious research into black holes and quantum gravity. It's a mind-bending idea.
It sounds like something out of Star Trek. What is it?
It suggests that all the information needed to describe a 3-dimensional volume of space can be completely encoded on its 2-dimensional boundary, like a hologram.
Wait, so you're saying our entire 3D universe could be a projection of information that's stored on a 2D surface somewhere?
That's the implication, that our perception of depth and solidity is an emergent property of information stored in a lower dimension. It fundamentally questions whether reality is made of stuff or if it's made of information.
Is the chair I'm sitting on a physical object? Or is it just a very convincing projection of data bits?
Are we living in Plato's cave? It's a deep, deep question.
But we have to throw some cold water on this. For all the cool parallels, what's the big critique that keeps the simulation hypothesis in the realm of philosophy, not science?
It's untestable. And if a theory is untestable, it's not science. There's no experiment we can run that could prove we're not in a simulation. If every law of physics we discover perfectly fits the model of a simulated universe, well, how do you falsify that? You can't.
So it's a fascinating thought experiment, but it's not physics.
It's a philosophical deduction based on an extrapolation of technology.
Which brings me back to my main complaint. If this is a simulation, the programmers are just terrible at their jobs.
The slow customer service lines.
Yes. The slow customer service lines, the subway being delayed every single morning, the sheer unnecessary complexity of filing your taxes. Why would you program in so much frustration? The user experience is awful. The KPIs have clearly failed.
Or maybe those frustrations are the point. Maybe the simulation is designed to test our patience, or the economic models require that level of bureaucratic friction to be realistic.
Or they just ran out of RAM and had to cut corners on the convenience module. That's why everything feels a little buggy.
It's possible. Okay, so we've laid out the weirdness. Now let's get to the heart of it. Given all this uncertainty and these bizarre rules, is our future pre-written? Do we really choose?
This is a big one. The clash between the old world and the new.
It's a clash between centuries of classical deterministic physics and the radical uncertainty of the quantum world.
So on one side, you have classical determinism. The universe as a giant clockwork machine.
This is the idea of Laplace's demon, a hypothetical superintelligence that knows the position and momentum of every particle in the universe at one instant.
And if it knows that, it can calculate the entire future and the entire past with perfect accuracy.
Correct. In that view, every choice you've ever made was predetermined at the Big Bang. Your feeling of free will is just an illusion. There's no room for it.
But then quantum mechanics comes along and just throws a huge wrench in the gears of that clock.
a universe-sized wrench. And it's called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It says you fundamentally cannot know both the exact position and the exact momentum of a particle at the same time.
And this isn't because our tools aren't good enough.
No, this is critical. It's not a limit of our technology. It's a fundamental property of reality itself. The universe is intrinsically fuzzy, probabilistic.
I just want to give another shout out to Mickey from Mickytolife. His channel is a treasure trove of inspiration, and he's a huge Sip&Talk fan.
Absolutely. Make sure to check him out and maybe even share your awesome podcast intro with him once you've created it. The future is not perfectly predictable, even in principle, because you can never know the initial conditions with perfect accuracy.
So Laplace's demon is unemployed.
His whole premise is physically impossible. The conclusion is that physics, as we know it, does not support a completely predictable deterministic universe. The clockwork is broken.
But getting rid of determinism doesn't automatically solve the problem, because quantum mechanics introduced its own mess. What happens during a measurement? How does the universe choose an outcome?
And this is where one of the most wild and maybe most popular interpretations comes in. The many worlds interpretation, or MWI.
Proposed by Hugh Everett in the 50s. This is his attempt to solve that measurement problem.
And his solution is radical. He says the wave function never collapses.
At all.
Never. Instead, every time a quantum measurement could happen, the entire universe splits into parallel branches. And every single possible outcome happens, each in its own separate, non-communicating universe.
So, with Schrödinger's cat.
The moment the quantum event happens, the universe splits. In one branch, the cat is alive, and a version of you opens the box and sees a live cat. In another branch, the cat is dead, and a version of you sees a dead cat. Both worlds are equally real.
That sounds completely insane. So why do so many serious physicists take it seriously?
Because mathematically, it's the cleanest, most elegant solution. It doesn't require adding some weird, arbitrary collapse rule to the equations. You just let the core equation of quantum mechanics, the Schrödinger equation, run. The math works perfectly if you just accept the consequence, which is an infinite number of branching worlds.
But critics call it a mathematical escape door for a reason. What's the biggest problem with it?
Well, for one, it's currently impossible to verify. How could you ever test for the existence of another universe that you can't interact with? And two, it raises a huge question about probability. If I have a 50-50 chance of something happening, and in the end both outcomes happen, what did 50-50 even mean?
If everything happens, then probability seems to just go out the window.
Proponents have mathematical answers for this, talking about the measure or weight of a branch. But it's a deep philosophical problem, and it leads to that huge misconception about free will.
The idea that if there's another me who made the opposite choice, then my choice doesn't matter.
Right, that your agency is an illusion because all possible paths were going to be taken anyway.
But what's the reality from my perspective in this branch?
In your branch, your choices have real, irreversible consequences. The MWI describes the branching of the whole universe, but it doesn't erase your experience of causality and responsibility within your own timeline. You are the product of the choices made in this branch.
So let's use the coffee analogy again to drive this home.
Okay. You're in the coffee shop agonizing over whether to get a latte or that super sugary drink. MWI says, yes, the moment you choose, the universe splits, and in another world, another you is drinking that sweet coffee.
Yeah.
But in this universe, that you still has to pay the bill. The consequences, the cost, the calories, the sugar crash are real and irreversible for the version of you in this branch. Your choice, here and now, is absolute for you.
Okay, so determinism is out, but many worlds makes choice feel weird.
Yeah.
So let's face the other big challenge to free will, this one from neuroscience.
The Libet experiments. These were famous and for a while seemed like a death blow to free will.
Right. They found that the brain activity for making a decision, the readiness potential, fires off before the person is consciously aware that they've made a choice.
It looks like your brain decides and then your conscious mind just catches up later and takes credit for it.
So is free will just an after-the-fact story we tell ourselves?
Well, it certainly disproves a certain kind of ghost-in-the-machine free will, where a non-physical soul is making the calls. But the philosophical counterargument is powerful.
Which one, exactly?
It's that your brain's activity is you. The complex neural processes that weigh options based on your memories, values, and desires, that is the process of you making a decision. The conscious awareness is just the final step of that process becoming reportable.
So the decision is still mine, even if the whole process isn't instantaneously available to my conscious mind.
Exactly. Which leads us to the most common view among philosophers today, compatibilism.
Okay, let's define that. How can free will be compatible with a universe of cause and effect?
Compatibilism starts by saying we're defining free will the wrong way. Freedom isn't about being uncaused. That's just randomness. Freedom is about acting according to your own internal reasons and values without being forced by something external.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. If someone puts a gun to your head and says, "Give me your wallet," you're not acting freely. You're being coerced. But if you decide to donate to a charity because you feel generous and it aligns with your values, that's a free act, even though your generosity itself has causes, your upbringing, your brain chemistry, and so on. The choice came from you.
Okay, so where does quantum mechanics fit in? Because if my choice is just based on a random electron firing in my brain, that's not a free choice. That's just a twitch.
That's the key. Quantum randomness does not create free will. But what it does do is provide the necessary open structure for free will to exist.
What do you mean by open structure?
By breaking the rigid chain of classical determinism, quantum uncertainty ensures the future isn't a closed, pre-written book. It creates a fundamental openness, a wiggle room in reality. And in that space, a complex, self-aware system like a human brain can emerge and make genuine choices based on its own internal logic, not on a predetermined script.
So physics provides the possibility, the open field, and our conscious, complex brain provided the choice itself.
Precisely. The physics cracks open the door that determinism had slammed shut.
Let's use that Netflix analogy to wrap this up.
The existential pause. The screen says, "Are you sure you're still watching?" You're on the couch. You know you should get up.
You feel the impulse to turn it off, but you don't. You eventually just let the next episode play. You feel like you made a choice.
But the algorithm probably knew you would. It knows your viewing habits, the time of day, your history. Still, the choice was yours. It flowed from your desires, your habits, your state of mind. Your freedom lies in that internal process, not in being random or unpredictable.
Wow. Okay. We've gone through a lot. A universe that's probabilistic, maybe a simulation, maybe splitting into infinite copies. This level of weirdness and uncertainty, it can lead to a very dark place. It can lead to nihilism.
It's a natural reaction when you realize you're a tiny speck in an incomprehensibly vast and indifferent cosmos. It's easy to feel like nothing matters.
So let's define nihilism. It comes from the Latin for nothing.
It's the philosophical view that life has no objective, inherent meaning, purpose, or value. The universe wasn't made for us, and it doesn't care about us.
And the quantum world seems to feed right into that.
Yeah.
If reality is just an efficient rendering of information, if my choices are just one path among trillions, where do I find any solid ground for meaning?
That's the crisis. But here's the crucial philosophical turn, the one made by thinkers like Nietzsche and Camus. They saw nihilism not as a dead end, but as a liberation.
How is it liberating? It sounds terrifying.
Because it's the collapse of old, externally imposed values. Nietzsche's death of God wasn't just about religion, it was about the end of any external guarantee for meaning. And when that safety net is gone, it creates a vacuum, a space where we are finally free to create our own values. We become the authors of meaning.
Camus called it the absurd revolt.
Exactly. To recognize the absurdity of the human desire for meaning in a meaningless universe, and to rebel against it by living passionately anyway. We create love, we create art, we create purpose, in spite of the cosmic silence.
So the takeaway isn't that quantum physics proves nothing matters.
Not at all. It just proves that reality is more open and flexible than we thought. And that means meaning isn't something you find like digging up a treasure. It's something you have to invent. Something we, as complex, conscious beings, must create and project onto the world.
And that brings us to that perfect grounding analogy from our notes.
Right. Even if the universe has no grand purpose, the feeling of being hungry is real.
Meaning may be man-made, but being hungry is real. Your subjective experience, your pain, your joy, your love, your goals, that is undeniably real and important for you, regardless of whether you're in base reality or simulation number 7 billion.
It's the ultimate anchor.
Okay, so let's try to pull all of this together, from the tiny electron to the multiverse. What's the unified picture that emerges?
I think first, it's a picture that puts information first. All these threads entanglement, the holographic principle, simulation theory, they all point to a reality that might be fundamentally computational, made of information rather than just inert matter.
And second, it shows that we are participant observers. We're not just watching the movie of the universe. The act of measurement, of observation, makes us active participants in shaping which branch of reality we experience.
Which leads back to the paradox of choice. Even if all choices are made in the multiverse, you only experience one path. And the act of choosing, of committing to that path and living with its consequences, is what defines your unique reality.
So what's the ultimate invitation here? What is all this weirdness asking of us?
I think it's an invitation to be humble, to accept that reality is far stranger than we can imagine, but at the same time, it's an invitation to be incredibly courageous. Because physics has taken away the comfort of a pre-written script, it's telling us the structure of the universe is fundamentally open, allowing for things like complexity and choice and consciousness to emerge.
We have the raw material. It's up to us to build the meaning.
That was quite a journey. We started with a single electron behaving bizarrely, which forced us to rethink what real even means. Then we jumped to Einstein's cosmic speed limit, which protects the flow of time. From there, we dove into the multiverse, the simulation, and the core challenge to our sense of free will.
And what we found is that the universe isn't a rigid, predictable clock. But it's also not just a random mess. It's a complex structure with rules that somehow allow for genuine, unpredictable choice to emerge from all that underlying uncertainty.
And I think the most profound thing we can take away is this. Quantum mechanics and relativity haven't stolen meaning from our lives. They've just shown us that the universe didn't provide a script. We have to write it ourselves. And that is both the ultimate freedom and the ultimate responsibility.
That is a fantastic note to end on. And remember, we always try to approach these deep topics objectively, just laying out the facts and the theories and really encouraging you to do your own critical thinking.
We hope this deep dive gave you a lot to chew on, whether you find these ideas exciting or, frankly, a little terrifying. The whole point is to question our assumptions.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this journey into the nature of reality, please be sure to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast, wherever you're listening.
And while you're at it, check out our friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife. She's got great travel vlogs and funny memes, which might be the perfect antidote after wondering if your entire existence is a computational efficiency hack.
We'll be back next time with another topic guaranteed to make you question everything you thought you knew.
See you next time.